I will tell you the very first time I came to Philadelphia City, it was during the 7 Years' War, the French and Indian War. I was actually traveling from Virginia up to Boston town. And I had always dreamt of Philadelphia. It was the second greatest city in the British Empire, second only to London town. Philadelphia was completely overwhelming. There was the rush of commerce down the middle of High Street, what you all call the Market Street now. The rush of pedestrians on either side, sheep, cattle, pigs, geese everywhere. That was very exciting. Man and woman alike came up to me and put their hands out. And of course I am from Virginia. The custom is the gentleman bow. And so I would step back and they would close the distance and put their hand out again, which really shows you that we were citizens of different countries back then.
A wonderful display of George Washington materials to the public on our George Washington Day. And among the things that we had were the Tobias Lear diary. Tobias Lear was Washington's personal secretary and wrote the only eyewitness account of the death of the president. He goes through hour by hour the things that were tried to save the general's life, and ultimately they all failed, and describing the last words of the president as well as the last words of Mrs. Washington. What a lot of people found probably most interesting about the entire collection were all the visuals we had. We had images of Washington at Valley Forge, images of Washington with his family, with his mother, images of Washington that were portrayed after his death, one of which of George Washington almost rising into the heavens.
This is particularly interesting. It is a reproduction of the very first portrait that was ever made of me. It was made by Mr. Peale in 1773. I'm a man of youth at that time, before the War of American Independence. In contrast, of course, this gentleman, who stands at a very, very different time and different age, with many experiences under his belt, further along in the road to decrepitude.
Another document on display was what we call the George Washington Memorial Case, or some people might consider it a shrine to the president. It's a very Victorian thing to do. It was done in the 1800s, but it contains two images of George Washington, a handwritten letter from George Washington. What's most odd about the case, or unusual, is there's a locket of George Washington's hair. Everyone says they have a locket of George Washington's hair, but we of course believe ours is real because of the provenance. It was given to a relative of the man who made up this case, and it was given to him by a man who was the son of George Washington's personal hairdresser. So there's four people down the line, but there's a clear line of ownership from the time the hairdresser snipped it off Washington's head to the time this man put it into the Washington case.
My experiences of Philadelphia, of course, continue. This place has been the place where many of the most remarkable events of my life have taken place. And it is, of course, where, during the War of American Independence, when they weren't fleeing from the British, I would receive my orders from the Congress here as well. Truly a remarkable city.